Okay, today in history, 1979, China invaded Vietnam. This is part of the Vietnam War. Northern Vietnam and Southern Vietnam were like against each other. North Vietnam wanted to follow communist government style, and Southern Vietnam wanted to follow capitalist democracy style government. So yeah, that's the big reason why the Vietnam War happened. So that's part of it though. Because China was also communist. So I'll give you more details about that when we get to that, but.
Oh, we're doing World War II, huh?
We're not even there yet. Staying in the news, we're getting there. We're gonna be there soon, a couple weeks, we'll be there. Staying in the news, Texas is in crisis. You guys heard what's going on in Texas?
It's cold.
It's super cold. I'm gonna put on my weather woman hat for right now. Usually, I mean, we're used to snow and cold, right? Every now and then, the northeast coast, like or the eastern coast, they'll get like dumped on with snow and it halts businesses and jobs and schools for a while. When we have a cold spell, usually it affects right here. Okay, this Midwest region, the middle of our country, and it doesn't usually get too far south, just because closer to the border or the equator you get, the warmer it is, right? So it usually affects this like kind of bowl right here. And that's how it usually is. Every winter they'll have a really bad cold spell, especially these guys. They'll get like -20 sometimes.
That's
Crazy. That's
It's
cold.
not even cold.
Oh, they've gone to -50, so.
That's weak.
Oh, whatever, Chris. So instead of going and stopping right here, this time it's going all the way down here, which is pretty unusual. Here, whenever it snows, we have the infrastructure and logistics and everything set up to clear snow, to deal with ice, but they don't, because they don't have it that much. I mean, they don't need it, because they don't have it that much. So it's unusual. They don't have the infrastructure also, because so much of Texas relies on wind energy. The wind panels and the windmills have frozen as they can't get energy. So a lot of people are going without heat. Several people have already died because they do not have heat. Which leads into a larger political discussion that we won't have right now about what energy is best for our country.
Yes.
We're not going to have that right now.
Yes.
But it's been a lot of talk about that recently.
Have you seen how bad alkaline battery mine looks?
About what?
Have you seen what an alkaline battery mine looks like?
Just the battery, like
No, it's
inside
like
it?
a mine, like
Oh, a mine,
crazy. It's horrible. Just look it up.
I should.
It's really good.
Parent-teacher conference today, according to the last name, so make sure you know what time you're supposed to be here for that.
So do we have to be here for that time? Or?
I would love to say yes. Yes, that they really want you to. If they can't be here during that time, have them just call off and say, I can't come during that time, I can come during this time, and then they'll let us know to expect you at a different time. So if you need to come at a different time, just have your parents.
What if I don't know when I want to come in?
Honestly, there are so few people here that even if you show up and I'm not on your time because you're just here, like you want to be your own parent and come, right after school, then just do that. That's fine. So today our objectives: Roaring Twenties review. That's the very first thing we're gonna do. Then we're gonna talk about one of my favorite things. I'm so excited to teach you guys about this. Comparing the 1920s to the year 2020. Super exciting. All right, open up your Chromebooks, go to modules. We're gonna do this review pretty quick, hopefully quick, so we have lots of time to talk about it.
Game.
Oh, it's not a Kahoot game. I should have made it a Kahoot game, because those are a lot more fun than having it quiz on cameras. But this one has like open-ended, so it doesn't allow for that. It doesn't. So it's called 1920s Culture Review. So go to the bottom of your modules. 1920s Culture Review. Boys, let's go. We don't have too much time to waste, so we gotta get going. Because we're gonna have a great discussion today.
I hope so.
It's gonna be
Our
good.
discussion?
It's gonna be mind blowing.
Want to hear a joke? Watch that.
I want you to do this first.
Where did Sally go after the explosion?
Wait, what?
Where did Sally go after the explosion?
I don't know who Sally is. Probably everywhere. She was exploded. 10-year review. 1920s Culture Review. It should be like fourth or whatever from the bottom.
Have you heard that joke before?
I have not. But according to your other jokes, I assume that would be the answer. click on our class, go to modules, down at the bottom, 1920s culture review. It's under our today's date. Wednesday, there we go, culture review, there you go. And then just click begin and go ahead and start it. 1920s culture review.
Before I didn't have the. What's a crime gangsters?
What's what?
People in organized crime gangsters.
Oh, okay, so they were called what? Like they were given some funny name,
Oh,
and that's the name that you're gonna write down. Focus on like a smuggling part. There were gangsters who smuggled, and they were called this. It was a funny name. Let's go down to today's date. When you're done, look at your answers that you have. It might show you, it'll show you most of your answers if you got correct or not correct. All the ones that you had to type in your answers, you'll have to wait till I grade it to know your official grade. But if you need to retake it, you could retake it as early as tomorrow. It's not a quiz though, so it's.
What is that to do that? What about how long Renaissance like action movement kind of that?
Yeah, so that Harlem Renaissance has to do with Black culture.
Oh.
Once you're done with your review, I'm going to give you the comparison chart and the comparison reflection where you're going to answer some things. The first question is something you're going to do by yourself. You're just going to read through this chart. Don't say anything yet. Just read through this chart and then you're going to answer the first question. Okay, so as soon as you're done, I'm going to give this to you so you can start looking through this chart and reading through everything. This year we have not learned about every single one of these things. We won't have time to talk about every one of these things this year, but we talked about a good amount of them. And if you've been aware of things going on, in the world in this past year, then you'll kind of recognize something. So when you're done, you're just going to read through it.
Answer questions or not?
Answer the first one only right now. So only the first one when you're done. So you're done. So that's what you read through. So finish it first and then read through the comparison chart. In this comparison chart, I will tell you, it says decade around the 20s. It's kind of starting a few years before the 20s and ending a few years after the 20s. So it's just kind of like the years before and after the 20s, but mostly the 20s. That's why I said the 20s. All of that, the whole 2 decades, guys, basically compiled into 1 year. So read through this chart, full size. Installment plans where you pay for part of it all the time. so it's kind of similar to how you buy a credit card, you pay it, you buy it from the store, but you're not really paying for it later until you pay your bank on it. So you're paying for things before you actually have the money to pay for it. Garbage, I can't go when I'm not really in over here. Yes, what is it? I'm the old fish. I'll go back and forth. There's some things on there that you guys probably don't know what it is, right? Some things and I'll help you after we're done being run through, then I'll help you figure out some of the things that you've never heard of before. So, in your groups, what you're gonna do now, and I have to mention this for those who are absent today because I'm recording. For those who are absent today, who are watching this Zoom class, you will just mention things for the Paris part. You're gonna mention things that we talked about as a class in that section. So that's what you guys online will do. Okay. So as a group, what you're gonna do is you're going to discuss these comparison charts, talk about what you noticed, mention that to your group, talk about what you think is interesting, and you're just gonna be, exploring it. Maybe if you don't know something, you can ask your group members if they know about that topic. But you're gonna be discussing it. What you guys talked about, you're going to list just a few of them in those bullets. Okay? So go ahead right now, talk about what interests you or what you think, what you've noticed in this chart. We're gonna talk to your group.
That there was also a food accident called yes, in the area, I see that.
What do you want? Oh, you'll hear.
Yes.
Oh. Discussing things that you notice. Share everything that you wrote down.
So as you guys can tell, here is a chart of a decade around the 1920s and 1950s. And here around the 2020, the pandemic, Spanish flu, on and it happened in the 1920 area. Everybody done wearing masks and 50 million people dead worldwide. About there's a quarantine now today there's quarantine going on, so we have coronavirus right now. Then we have the high business now, 5%. Now we're about 20%. Economy shrink 50% back in the 1920s. Economy shrank about 32% around 2020. Racism issue, not 15 birth of the nation, mention of President Trump. There was a lot of things going on around 2020. As you guys can tell, there was a riot, street riots, attack on Sunday, those huge below around so go on different topics. So as you guys can tell, back in the 1920s, racism issue in 1950 birth of the nation. And whatever changed, and all of a sudden there's a higher subject, kick. So then after that happened, and after that there was this thing called.
You're not summarizing what?
He's reading.
Oh, you're reading it?
Yeah, I'm trying, but they don't understand it, so I'm trying to read it.
Talk about what's interesting.
Yeah, what kind of BL1?
I have no idea, so I'm gonna have to search that up.
That's where you ask, hey, what's the on, you guys? And then.
We just did.
No, each other.
Yeah.
Do you guys all not know? Chris knows.
I think I know, that's why I have before.
Brown lights
Alright, anyways,
They said they
Different
teach like
like
cultures. How do you teach the culture? It's like $2 billion for families.
and yeah, what you guys are doing?
There's certain things that I don't do. So, like this, similarity with all of it. And it just wasn't my head. But we sell, and even stuff, number of that is much different. So like there's, you know, a little bit that's different in each thing, but there's a lot that's the same. Write down something about that too, but what else do you think is interesting about this? Here, section, you know, so the things that we talk about, we talk about it. But,
Yeah. This one.
okay, so, that's, oh, gosh, I have another arrow. So that's part of the critical race, so in the 1920s, we talked briefly about those ones, where they were talking about should we see physical evolution or creation? Did God create the world, or do we like do God create man, or were we evolved?
So
Right, those are the two like competing theories, and now they're both version taught together, and like these are two theories that people have on how the right? So they were debating on that, and I think today we're debating on what we should teach in schools regarding history. So the 1690 critical race theory and the 1690 project is focusing more on minorities and their history, like Western our history is often from a white perspective, and the male perspective. 1776 commission, but I was not time. We don't like the 1619 project.
Oh my God.
The founding of the country wasn't remarkable at all. You know, the founding of the country was which may or may not even be true. That's just what they're doing. So they're arguing what kind of history should critical race theory be taught in school. Should it not, should focusing on how we alleviate the boundaries of it.
Shut up. Roll over. Look at me.
You can right now, you can also talk about. Do you guys have something for all 3 years?
Yeah.
Once you're done with all 3 of the ones, you do after pairs on your own. Once you're done with that one. You answer that question after pairs on your own.
I think it's crazy how races are still around for 100 years.
More than 100 years. Some longer, some racism. But the thing of how far we've come since, you know, 1920s was a lot better than 1860s, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna do a king of the gift.
You're right. You wanna be my kid or you don't wanna be my kid?
What would give you if you was your kid?
I'll be like, no, that's the worst kid ever.
You're so mean.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
You guys ever heard that?
You should hear what I do, baby.
Basically like the main thing you want to share.
How can they help us?
Well, because you have three people.
Together we all form a kid.
Their giggles are doing the same. At least that particular one.
Josh looks at how you would make a baby sometime.
Uh-oh. I'm not sure I want to know this
They're
answer.
gonna get up in this rocket, come up and do the ball.
Rocking is a good option. What is your,
When babies cry, it freaks me out. I
really?
have a babysitter, who's just crying, I'll look at it, I'll pick it up, but.
And he starts crying.
I have a nephew that too.
Oh, yeah.
You can go quick, go like, cry, pick him up. He'll start to hit me, have to hit him back with it.
Okay, who would like to share what they wrote down for aftercares on their own? Go ahead.
I put, the racial inequality,
Racial inequality, what about it?
that, like, there's a still, there's not, there's not as bad as it was back then, but it's still, it's still a big.
A big thing. It is, I will add to that. Even, I remember growing up and people would, the argument when I was a teenager was, is racism even still there? Like, that was the argument that I heard when I was a teenager. And I'm just like, well, yeah, I didn't understand why that was an argument at the time, but like, well, of course.
I'm extreme.
But I knew that it was a lot better. I feel like the last few years, we've kind of gone backwards a little bit. These tensions just starting to just really just pull people apart, not even just politically, but also racially. Yeah, it's a big deal. Just like it was in the 20s, it's a big deal. It's not as bad, of course, because, I mean, American Indians didn't get the right to vote till 1924, so that didn't happen until the middle of the 20s. This is before all those civil rights movements that we've talked about. So it's definitely a lot better, okay? And we don't have lynchings anymore.
How do you know that?
Well, they don't do hangings, they do deaths other ways. There are crimes that are committed, what's it called? Hate crimes, we call it hate crimes because you commit the crime because you hate the other.
What's the crime being done?
Okay, that way, please. All right, who else wants to share for after pairs on your own, what they wrote? Get a couple more. What do you guys think? Yes, you can sit in your individual spot if you want to. We're done with group stuff. Anyone else want to share? Let's have at least one of you guys. So we have one from this group, one from this group. Mike said we should share. That's you. Do a Ronnie versus. Right. Mark Twain's quote, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. It's never exactly the same, but look at this chart, guys. There's so many things that are similar, isn't there?
Yes, there were so many.
Now, and I know like there's an easy answer to be like, oh yeah, it says the same thing, so of course it's similar. Without, like if you actually understand it, then it's a lot more mind-blowing. So let's hear what you guys have questions about. What did you see on here that you're like, I don't know what that is? So you're like, sure, it says it on there, but what does that mean? Yes.
BLM.
BLM, Black Lives Matter. Okay.
What's the name on it? Is this the name like Antifa?
Oh, okay, so that's a different group, but there have been people who have said that they work together sometimes. But Black Lives Matter, their purpose is to not have phones in class. Their purpose is to say like, and it's not, if you've ever heard the All Lives Matter comeback.
All lives do
I
matter.
don't want to get political here, but, and they have said Black Lives Matter, you can look at their website, Black Lives Matter is not saying that only Black Lives Matter. They're saying that for once in our lifetime, can Black Lives Matter also? That's kind of what their focus is racial equality for Blacks. to help raise their status to equality. That's the purpose of the group. Whether you think that they are or they're not equal isn't relevant. That is what their group is designed to do. Okay, that's what they say their purpose is. So Black Lives Matter has been associated with a lot of the protests and riots that have happened in the summer of 2020. Okay. All right, what else? What else do you guys like? You read something and you're like, I don't know what this means, or I don't know what this is about. Well, I know there's a lot, guys, so
I pretty much understand everything.
pretty much. All right, so let's switch spots. Let's teach us about every single one of these and
All right.
the context. Start with Start with the attacks on the synagogues and racism issues 2020.
All right. Well, as you guys can tell, today is learning today. So we are going to learn about the attack on the how you say it?
Synagogues.
Synagogues. All right. Well, what can you guys tell me about synagogues?
I don't know what it is.
Well, somebody else will.
You're supposed to be teaching us.
Well, I would like to have a question asked you now.
Yes, I just do.
Does anybody know what a synagogue is?
Yes.
No.
Okay, nobody knows what it is. Tell us, teacher.
Well,
I said that hard. It's not gonna do with the Holocaust.
I think some of that is right. I think so.
Teacher doesn't even know.
All right, let's sit down. I'm just kidding. You don't laugh. No, I didn't.
She should have.
Yep.
So a synagogue, I'm not going to fail you. A synagogue is a place of worship for people who are Jewish. Okay? There have been in the summer of 2020, there have been attacks, bombs, and shootings in the synagogues because there has been a rise of anti-Semitism. Who knows what that means? Anti-Semitism. Basically, if you're Semitism means Jewish culture, so if you're anti-Semitist or anti-Semitic, then you are against Jewish people and their culture. So people who hate Jews, and
What are Jews?
it's a culture, it's a
Jewish.
religion.
You know, it's actually like a, not racial, so it's kind of like that.
It's
Kind of mess up on Jews.
well, it's not a racist thing
No, not racist.
because it's not a race. It's a religion.
Because like, you're thinking religion. Like one time I said Jew in front of the mall, and I said, oh, it's Jew.
These are
Depends on your
religion.
context, because a lot of people have blamed Jews for things. So if you are blaming Jews for something, then you're showing anti-Semitic behavior, which is a no-no. Don't do that. That's evil. All right, what else, guys? What else? Look at something and tell me that you don't understand something, or you don't know, because we didn't have time to talk about it.
National Aggression Association. What's the monkeys from?
Oh, NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. That was the group that was developed in the 20s to lift up and make the Black race or colored people in general a more equitable place. So it's similar to what BLM, Black Lives Matter, is trying to do today.
What's the monkey trial?
Scopes Monkey Trial. Scopes Monkey Trial was in the 20s. We talked about it briefly in our intro, but basically they were trying to decide what should be taught in schools. Should we teach kids that were evolved from monkeys, or should we teach kids that we were created by a creator or God? But people were, if they were religious, they're like, no, God created people. You shouldn't teach we were involved because God created people. So there was a huge debate on what should be taught in schools. Today, we teach both as possible options.
Like aliens make the first person that has to
And then comparing it to the thing in the 2020s, it says, I made an error where it's supposed to say on one arrow, Critical Race 1619 Project versus 1776 Commission. Critical race theory is basically teaching that race has a hand in everything that is part of our history. That race is part of it. The 1619 Project is a more put forward by Democrats and people who, and most of the Black community by saying that slavery was a defining part of the creation of our country. That's like the purpose of that. The 1776 Commission, which was produced by former President Trump, is basically saying, no, that's not true. The founding of our country was the founding fathers and how the Enlightenment and how we rose above and wanted democracy. So it's more of a focus on that, not so much on the institution of slavery and how that had an impact. So is this debate on what should be taught in our schools, and that's actually becoming a big thing because you know, there are some teachers who do teach their own bias and teach what they want to their kids. And
you do that?
no, I try my best. I try my best to be unbiased and teach craft as much as I can. Everybody has bias though. But there are teachers and you know, I've seen people, I've met teachers who are obviously, you know, telling you what version they think is true. I like to tell you guys multiple versions and be like, okay, what do you think is true? Or like, these are these perspectives. Here are the perspectives, you know? So, yeah, there are a lot of teachers who today, and people think it's worse than it really is, but it is still an issue today. So it's a huge debate going on right now, actually, of what should history teachers be teaching in classrooms. So, okay, what else, guys?
I got it. I think it's gonna go. Yeah, I think it's gonna
No.
So, I did.
I tried my best, so I get.
Okay, so pandemic, that was pretty easy to you know everything, right? There's both in the Spanish flu, because the Spanish flu, when I talked about criticism of government responses, it's because at the beginning of the Spanish flu, World War I was going on, and our government and also other governments did not tell the people that the Spanish flu was a big deal. They hid it from us until the soldiers came back and everybody started getting sick, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, Spanish flu is a thing. And they're like, what? We could have already been quarantining. We could have already done things to prevent this. And you should have told us. And so there's criticism on that the government wasn't telling us. And then the 2020, of course, with the pandemic that we're going on today, there's criticism on, should we have shut down earlier? Should we have not shut down at all? So there's criticism of government response that way, right?
How long did it take this actually to go?
2 years, it lasted 2 years.
Oh, so they're almost done.
If we follow patterns of pandemics, when I look into patterns of pandemics, we should be done this year. That's what I assume. I could be wrong because I'm not an epidemiologist.
I think this is gonna be going on for a decade.
But I'm going to assume it'll be done this year, especially because we have a vaccine. Economic collapse. So looking at the next one, this is talking about the 1920s. We're talking about the Great Depression, which is the unit we're about to starting next week. So we're gonna start talking about the Great Depression. So that economic collapse, we were doing so great in the 20s, right? Buying lots of stuff. We're doing great. Things are good. Business is good. People are making money. And then the economy collapses and everybody's in debt. People are starving. People are moving because they can't survive to live where they're at. It's bad. Okay. And guess what's happening this year? We've had the same thing. People are worried about money. They can't make their payments because lots of people have lost their jobs, just like they did in the Great Depression. And then criticism of stock market thing. We have the same issue of people who have the power in the stock market controlling things then. You guys remember hearing about GameStop?
How that even happened?
Well, basically, usually it's the people, the brokers and the people who are buying, they'll buy something to raise the stock and then they'll sell it when it's high so they can make money. So a lot of people do that. But then regular people, for the first time ever, really, started doing the same thing. They started buying and buying and buying and raising the stock so that all the people who were lending the stocks, this is a good explanation of it, but all the people who were lending that money suddenly, they didn't have the money to pay them off anymore because the stock price was so high, they couldn't sell it to make their ends meet. So people who are in stocks, they lost like billions of dollars. So there's criticisms what's going on with the stocks today and who should really be controlling it, just like they had criticisms.
I should be
of that.
controlling it.
All right. So we'll end there. If you guys, this paper, guys, this one is yours to keep. You're free to, do whatever you want with it. You can share it with family if you think it's interesting, because I think it's super mind blowing how. Oh, I really love Michael's comment that he noticed. Actually, I'm gonna share it because I really like it.
Yeah.
We have in the first column, we have this decade of the 20s, but even more than that, it's technically 2 decades worth of stuff all smashed into 1 year. That's how hectic this last year was and how abnormal this last year was, because 2 decades worth of events all smashed into 1 year.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy. It's mind blowing.
The Freemasons.
So this is yours to keep. This, answer the last question at the bottom and turn it in. Okay, but this is yours to keep.
So I found my Chromebook the whole entire time it was in the bag.
Oh my goodness. All right, wait, Kenyon, where's yours?
Yeah,
He just left it there.
put it back.
How dare you get that right now?
You're gonna start beating some butt, that's part of
Send it to the
participation
office.
and respect, right? Join down.
Kids.
There we go, thank you, sir.